Well, good evening, Frankmeisters. Welcome back to another episode of True Crime Talks with Frankmeister, and I've got our good buddy Ruckus Rocks in the house. What's going on, Ruck?
Not much. Not much. How's everybody doing?
You see what's going on now, don't you?
It's just some more bullshit.
Yeah. You know what's so funny about this whole situation today is that Nick waited until after Judge Gold made her ruling on this new file to protect and preserve evidence and all that. He waited until she denied it to release all this stuff.
Yeah.
That's what's so funny about it. So how you been otherwise, man?
Hanging in there.
That's good. That's good. How's the house coming along?
Now, just like good, we're getting there. We'll be in there around August time.
Well, that's good. That's good.
But just like we were just talking, Baldwin's got another case to work, and Nick's got a bunch of cases to work. He doesn't have time for this bullshit either. He's busy.
Right. Let's give some shout outs. We got CJK, Karen Hick, Miss Shorty Jinx is in the house, Ziggy, Linda Harder, Witchcraft, Cindy, Elizabeth Jones. Let's see, Pam Hurst, good to see you. Mr. Randy Gravitz on the Frontier, good to see you. Let's see, Mr. Ron Logan's in the house. Coach Kev's in the house. Beth Gonzalez, Mustang, Rescue, Renegade. Boston Christian, Alex DeLarge, Miss Wildcard, good to see you. I'll be Frank, what's going on, Gibbo? Kiwi Bridget, good to see you. Blader, what's wrong with you? Miss Louise Cuevas, good to see you. Mr. Teddy, Maureen, Deb's True Crime Notebook. Once again, guys, if you guys not been over to Deb's True Crime Notebook, I want you to head over there at some point in time, give a thumbs up to her channel, subscribe, whatever you do, because she does one hell of a job reading these documents, guys.
Yes, she does.
Let's see.
Looks like Blade's pissed off at is what's going on.
Jamie Hicks, good to see you. Monroe, good to see you. He's over here playing is what he's doing. Playing with one of his bones. Diddums, good to see you. Let's see who else is in here. Okay, all right, guys. We got to lay some ground rules before we get started here. We will not be discussing any other creators whatsoever because none of us need the backlash. You know, we get a lot of backlash from the defense daddies or deludus, whatever you guys want to call them, but my term is scarecrows. 6-3 clocks. And if there's arguing or anything from people that are not new in this chat or coming in here starting some bullshit, they are automatically blocked. And that's going to be my rule tonight. Got that, mods? Automatically block them if they want to start shit in here tonight. And I will try to keep up with the chat as best as I can. If there's any questions, I'll try to get to them, guys. So, Miss Elizabeth Jones, good to see you. She is listening from the UK. But, I didn't expect this to happen today, honestly, Ruck. I was sitting there watching something about the Tupac murders because I've been following that case again because with all this new information is coming out. And all of a sudden I get an email and it's docs pop, and I'm like, what the hell is this? So I go check my case. It's like, oh, shit. And this is about 4:30 in the afternoon, and the court closed at 5. And nobody had got the documents in. So I called up her immediately. I said, hey, I need these documents before you guys shut down at 5 o'clock. And within 5 minutes, I got them. And I read that response from Nick, and I about shit my pants.
Yeah, he's done with it. He's busy. He's got other shit to do.
He lit up Baldwin. Lit him up.
Well, it's got to stop sometime.
Thank you, Rescue.
Get on with the appeal. Period.
Exactly. Everybody's giving you a shout out, Ruckus.
Hello to everyone.
Said, how are you feeling? This is from Mustang.
Feeling better. Getting there.
You know, we're not spring chickens anymore, so it takes triple the time to recuperate from anything for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, it was so dead last night, man. I ended up falling asleep about 10:30 and woke up at 5. And I never wake up at 5. It's usually about 7:30, 8 o'clock. And I've been up ever since. No naps, no nothing today. Yes, Witchcraft Blades right on cue. He sure is. Just making sure that the new people coming in that I haven't mentioned. Thank you, Mustang, for the $5 super sticker. Greatly appreciated. But let's get down to this, guys. Let's get down to it. Let's read Nick's response. I will try to read Reese Davis's letters, but the way he writes, it's almost impossible to see it. All right, then. We got about 4.5 pages from Nick McLeLand. States respond to the defendant's motion to preserve and produce specific evidence. Now the state of Indiana, by prosecuting attorney Nicholas C. McLeLand, and respectfully ask the court to deny the defense verified motion to preserve and produce specific evidence and their motion to set this matter for a hearing in the entirety. The state would ask the court to consider the following. That as the court has already outlined in its February 14, 2025 order, that there is no authority for the defense to request that the evidence be preserved by the state, and the state would ask the court to deny the same. Number 2, that the defense in their motion also asks the state to produce specific evidence demonstrating exculpatory evidence for the defense. Now, I'm not sure if everybody understands what exculpatory means. It is evidence to prove somebody innocent or basically prove their doubt of guilt. Number 3, that the state has outlined this in previous filings, but discovery is evidence in a case that the state intends to use at trial or evidence that tends to exonerate the defendant, which refers to as exculpatory evidence. Not all other information gathered in an investigation is discovery. See, we went through the same thing with the Odin crap. If you guys go back and remember, they were trying to say all the interviews or when they talked to the people from the Odin group that it was exculpatory. No, it is not. You have to prove that these individuals were in the area or at the crime scene when this all took place, and they could not prove that. You got Detective Murphy even admitted during either, I believe it was a trial or one of the pretrial hearings, that they could not place anybody related to Odinism at the crime scene, such as Patrick Westfall, Brad Holder, Elvis Fields, Johnny Messer, and whoever else they had named. Number 4, that most of what Ricky Davis told attorney Andrew Baldwin is false. That attorney Andrew Baldwin had an opportunity to fact check the information that Ricky Davis provided to him, but instead chose to put this information in a public motion without verifying its truthfulness. That the state contacted the Department of Correction and had the department send a list of all outgoing mail for Reese Davis to the Carroll County Prosecutor's Office. Said list herein attached is State's Exhibit 1.
Hey,
We'll
Frank, real quick. I just want to give a special shout out to Didim's grandson, Jax.
She's a good woman.
Yes, she is. She just gave you a super chat asking us to give a shout out to her grandson, Jax.
Thank you,
I wanted to
Diddums.
make sure we get that out.
Diddums is the one who bought my equipment, like my mic stand, the light for my computer. She bought me a green screen, and it was greatly appreciated. Thank you, Diddums.
She's good people.
Yes. Number 7, that as the court can see from the list, Ricky Davis did not send the state 8 letters. He only sent 3. 1 letter on October 4, 2025, one letter on October 15, 2025, and one letter on October 21st, 2024, all during on very near the trial of the state of Indiana versus Richard Allen. That the state was able to recover 2 of the 3 letters sent from Richie Davis, the letter sent October 4, 2025, and the letter sent October 21st, 2025. Herein attached as exhibits 2 and 3. Excuse me. That the letters sent by Reese Davis are not exculpatory for Richard Allen, therefore are not evidence or discovery. That the letters, in fact, accused Richard Allen of committing the murders. It is not exculpatory evidence for Richard Allen. It is inculpatory evidence for Richard Allen, which means it's evidence against Richard Allen. That the letter dated October 4, 2025 is entitled Information on Keegan Kline and Richard Allen. The letter goes on to implicate Richard Allen in the murders, stating that he set up the meeting with the girls. He is the one that killed the youngest girl, and that once the girls were killed, Richard Allen moved the bodies. I think he made a mistake here somewhere. Killed the youngest girl, which would have been Abby. Where's Libby? Okay, you see what I'm saying? But once again, we all know Keegan Kline. We dove into that dude for 4 years. Well, say 2.5, 3 years. And we know that he is a compulsive liar. He was putting out false information at the Miami County Corrections. He was making money, no matter what he had to do to make money. If it was lies, if it was untruthful information, and all the information he put out there, even Nick McLeLand verified anything, he could not corroborate anything that Keegan Kline was saying. All right, number 11. That in the letter dated October 21st, 2025, Reese Davis stated that Ron Logan, Keegan Kline, and Richard Allen are responsible for the murders. Once again, let's go back to the couple weeks ago when he filed, Andrew Baldwin filed to preserve evidence. He had stated that Reese Davis told him that Richard Allen had nothing to do with the crime. So now we got a contradiction. Think about that. Who's lying here? Reese or Andrew Baldwin? He goes on to state that Attorney Baldwin is an arrogant lawyer who was hinting me to lie for him and his client, saying that I should know how it is. Once again, we can't prove that Andrew Baldwin did try to cause him to lie. But which one is lying here? Is it Andrew Baldwin or is it Reese? We know that inmates will do anything to lie to make money. But then again, I've said this prior in several other lives, Andrew Baldwin to me seems like he's trying to save face. He got embarrassed on this case. He got called out on the leaks on the crime scene photos. And this is another thing that I want to discuss. I noticed that a lot of the defense Delulus will avoid certain information that is out there that what's the word I'm looking for? Points guilt to Andrew Baldwin when it comes to the leaks. Nick McLeLand even put out information that he had is either emails or texts between Westerman and Baldwin discussing the case, because Westerman was basically a consultant with Andrew Baldwin, so he had access to all the evidence prior to the leak. So you have to blame the leak on Andrew Baldwin, because Westerman should have never had access to none of the evidence or photos and that nature. Okay. Number 12, that although the state has diligently searched all the evidence involved in this case, the state cannot locate or even verify that the number 2 letter sent for Richie Davis was received by the office. Number 13, that James Winters did call the prosecutor's office on October 15th, 2025 and near October 21st, 2025 to verify that this office had received the letters sent by Reese Davis. However, at the time, he did not indicate how many letters that Reese Davis sent or when he sent them. He just called to confirm that the state had received some letters from Reese Davis. Further, he indicated to the office that both Keegan Klein and Reese Davis had been subpoenaed by the defense to testify at the trial against Richard Allen. And that is correct. They were both subpoenaed. Number 14, that the state's response to the motion to correct error, the state refers to the evidence that Reese Davis applied to Attorney Andrew Baldwin as not matching the physical evidence found at the scene. The state therefore finds the information that Reese Davis applied is not credible. Now let's go back to what he was talking about the scene. And I'm going to keep emphasizing this, and I don't care if the Delulus like it or not. It's blatantly obvious that you guys are not reading the 136-page Frankmeister memorandum that was sent out 2024, I believe it was, February 2024, on there. They were denying that Richard Allen was at the crime scene, okay? But they never once mentioned and denied that he was Bridge Guy. So what does that tell you? They don't mention it, so they had to have known that he was Bridge Guy. But what they were trying to deflect is that Richard Allen didn't physically kill the girls, and it doesn't matter if he physically killed them or not. All Nick McLeLand had to do was prove that he was Bridge Guy, and he proved he was Bridge Guy. Number 15, that there is zero evidence found in the investigation that Ron Logan and Keegan Klein knew each other or shared or exchanged child pornography. That the state was able to obtain recent communications between Keegan Klein and various civilians, where Keegan Klein denied the allegations set out by Reese Davis. We know who that was from. That herein attached is Exhibit 4. That further in the text communications, Keegan Klein states that Reese Davis is an idiot. I've only talked to him maybe 2 times. He's one of these guys in prison that tries to write all different prosecutors and gets time cut on people's cases. He's supposed to be a jailhouse lawyer is what it is. It's laughable. Keegan reiterates this point in several of the responses that he texts, that as the court can see from Exhibit 1, Reese Davis did not send several other letters out to other attorneys, which adds credence to statements that Keegan Klein made about Reese Davis's behavior. Number 19, that attorney Andrew Baldwin could have requested this information from the Department of Corrections to verify or debunk Reese Davis's statements before he made his filings, but chose to file the motion without verifying the allegations. Number 20, that attorney Andrew Baldwin, by his own admissions, interviewed Reese Davis on March 27, 2024. 21, that attorney Andrew Baldwin has every opportunity before trial to depose Reese Davis and had every opportunity to call him as a witness at any hearing or at the trial and choose not to. And what he's referring to is Reese Davis wrote the very first letter, or the tip, I should say the tip, back in May of 2017. And he did not, and Andrew Baldwin knew all this, but he didn't do anything about it. See, this is where they fucked up. They should have either went after Keegan Klein or Ron Logan. They had a better chance in their trial with that, but they went after the Odins. They didn't have nothing on the Odins. So that's where they messed up. In fact, James Winter's statement to this office, Andrew Baldwin had, in fact, subpoenaed Reese Davis to testify at the trial for Richard Allen. That attorney Andrew Baldwin now wants to present these statements from Reese Davis in irrefutable proof without any evidence or corroboration to back up the statements. 21, that Reese Davis's statements to attorney Andrew Baldwin do not match the statements that he made in the letters that he sent to the state. In those letters, he does not say Richard Allen is innocent or not involved. Quite the opposite, he says. Richard Allen participated in the murders and he is guilty. That evidence that contains allegations that the defense is guilty with no proof of those allegations is not exculpatory evidence and therefore does not have to be turned over to the defense. that there is not a video interview of Reese Davis that exists with the discovery or is within the state's possession. That even if this was evidence the defense wished to use at trial, it was not nearly newly discovered evidence. The defense knew of Reese Davis, had interviewed him, had subpoenaed him for trial, and chose not to present the evidence to court. Further, as the state has mentioned in previous responses, any information pertaining to Ron Logan or Keegan Klein falls under the state's motion of limine concerning third-party motive. The defense has 3 days to present evidence to meet their burden for third-party motive. They mentioned Ron Logan but failed to meet their burden with the court. They chose not to present this evidence in the hearing. They also did not present this evidence when they renewed their motion during the trial. This now seems to be an effort by the defense to use this motion to circumvent their burden concerning third-party motive. 28. That none of the evidence that the state has gathered from Reese Davis is exculpatory, nor is it discovery. That this motion seems yet another attempt by attorney Andrew Baldwin to push a certain narrative to the public, specifically the online world. He seems to follow these types of motions with very bold allegations that he neither verifies the information nor does he present any evidence to back up the statements. That is unfortunate that these motions by the defense in this case have come to this point where they present statements from an inmate as fact without any legal or evidentiary support. Wherefore, the state of Indiana, by the prosecuting attorneys Nicholas C. McLeLand, respectfully requests the court deny the defense's motion in its entirety without a hearing and for all the other just and proper reliefs in the premises. The state affirms under the penalties of perjury that the above is true and accurate to the best of the state's knowledge. Nicholas C. McLeLand, Carroll County Prosecutor. All right, let's see if we got any questions up here.
Now, this guy, Ricky Davis, he claims that he's housed in the same area as Keegan Klein is.
Right.
And he's saying that most of those people that are housed there are chomos, right?
Yeah.
And that he's there for drug charges, which he apparently he's proud of that. But I'm here to tell you, he's in there because he's either a confidential informant, a pain in the ass, or he checked in. All these people with all the swastika tattoos and all that shit he's got all over him, he's going to have problems on the compound. Now, there is, the Aryan Nation and the White Brotherhood and all that would usually protect somebody like that, but not if he's a little prick. So he probably didn't have
he's being a snitch. He was being a snitch is basically what it is.
Yeah, and that's why he's housed there. It's PC, pussy cracker, protective custody. That's where he's at.
I was trying to get to a question here. Where'd it go? Or a comment that somebody made. It can't be October 25th, as we all are only in March 2025. Well, it's probably just a typo, Elizabeth. I wouldn't read into that too much.
Yeah, none of this stuff matters. Baldwin needs to get on to his next case and leave this shit alone. Let the appellate system do its deal.
Yeah. Hey, Teddy, I'm about to put the link in the chat if you want to come up, bro.
My man, Teddy.
He's a good dude, bro.
He can sing, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I just pinned it up there. Oh, no, I didn't. All right, Teddy, if you want to come up, bro, there's the link. It's pinned up there. Because he's always got something to say. And I love it when he's like me, man. We don't pull no punches.
There's no need to. But this is all appeal fodder.
Yeah.
Anything that they stray off of that memo in support of the Franks motion, even 1 inch, fucks them more and more and more, but they don't care. They're trying to pad anything, and this is why the judge would not let them do this shit, because they're just trying to confuse the issue and
Yeah.
muddy the waters. But the Supreme Court's going to see right through that. He's not going to get another trial. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, like I said, I think Baldwin's just trying to save face because he got embarrassed in the Delphi case. He knew he was responsible for the leaked crime scene photos, and he's trying to save his reputation. That's just how I feel about it.
Well, he's not doing much for his private practice.
Oh, no doubt. The Big Top Show. Teddy says the Big Top Show thinks they're getting a residency in Vegas or something.
And now Rossi's not involved with any of this, is he?
No, because the
Yeah,
last filing, the temporary appearance by Baldwin, it didn't have Rosie or OJ on there.
yeah, because they're smart. They don't want to be
Marines.
involved with this bullshit. They're like, you're on your own, buddy. Don't
Well,
put
I
my
mean,
name on that shit.
me and you talked about this behind the scenes. Baldwin doesn't realize. Well, I don't. Well, I'll retract that. Rosie is partners with Andrew Aki, which was the attorney for Keegan Klein and Ron Logan. He's not going to fuck with Keegan Klein or Ron Logan because it's a conflict of interest.
Right. Whether it's a conflict of interest or not. I mean, listen. I mean, bottom line, Richard Allen was found guilty. He put himself there.
Right.
You cannot commit a crime if you're not there. They tried like hell, and instead of defending their client against whatever the prosecution was throwing at him, they just kept trying to point in other directions where they had no nexus, none.
Right.
They
Right.
couldn't put anybody else there, and the reason they didn't fight that he was bridge guy, because if that comes up in the appeal, the Supreme Court's just going to say, well, you admitted that he's bridge guy. So they're not going to do that.
6-3 clock says Nick McLeLand must get tired of going over the same stuff with them again and again and again, like Groundhog Day. Exactly, 6-3 clocks.
It'll stop soon. It has to.
All right, let's see. Going through the chat here. Yeah, I'm not even going to attempt to read Reese's because I can't read that crap. Y'all have seen it.
Fuck him. It's not even worth reading. Fuck that idiot. He's just a little jailhouse snitch. That's all he is.
I know. So good to have Ruckus on panel. We've missed him. Yeah, Monroe. Yes, that's what a lot of people have been talking about. Reese Davis is basically the jailhouse lawyer. He's getting paid by doing that, and he's putting bogus information out on the Delphi case to try to get more people to put money on his books or his chirp device, whatever he's using up there.
Well, here's what I used to tell all the jailhouse lawyers, all these inmates that spend a lot of time in the legal library. If you're so fucking good, what are you still sitting in prison for?
Right.
So fuck off. Go get your breakfast tray or go hungry. Fuck off.
CJK says not just Baldy, but Kara and Oztooth. And their supporters are fools, liars. And I everybody knows I called out Osbrook on my community page with the Supreme Court crap. He gives false legal advice, and it's just, that's why I don't even pay attention to these channels unless somebody sends me something that one of these channels said or did. That's the only time I pay attention to him.
He's just a glorified jailhouse attorney, too.
Kara wants there to be exculpatory evidence so badly she's twisting things. That's what they do. And that's why I keep saying, guys, if you watch any of these other scarecrow channels, when they're reading these documents, they will skip over shit intentionally. They want to read the stuff that's going to make the defense team look good. They don't want to read shit that's going to make them look bad.
Right. And Deb, yeah, Ricky claimed Baldwin hit him up to lie about his client, but Ricky Davis is such a liar that nobody's even going to believe that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Who's
So
lying
that's
between
going
the
nowhere.
two? Which of the two is lying about what was said?
Right. They're all lying. What else do they have to do?
You know,
You know, the fuck they else have? They got 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to think of shit. You know, and these
CJ.
attorneys like Baldwin just runs with it.
Yeah, CJK says, Ruckus, stop holding back. You're a little bit soft tonight.
Well, I mean, mostly because I've moved past this case. You know, shit like this is aggravating. You know, but it is what it is. They're not going to stop.
Good
And
point, Rescue. Since they both were lying, it's canceled out. Good point.
exactly, exactly. You know, it doesn't take a genius to tell the difference between chicken shit and chicken salad. You know,
Oh, well, guess who's coming up? My
Theodore.
man Teddy. My man Teddy.
What's up, fellas?
What's going on, bro? I know you've had a few already, so go and do what you do, bro.
No. I'm just getting started.
Hey, Teddy.
What's up?
Do you know pigeons die after they have sex?
The one you did, huh?
Yeah, the one I fucked did anyway. Yeah.
And me and Teddy have had numerous conversations behind the scenes about this, and me and him think so much alike. You know, it's just a bunch of hogwash.
I'm going to be honest with you, Frank. I didn't read shit that came out today because I don't care.
Well, I'm sure, but from what you've heard, you're probably thinking these fucking idiots.
No, I was just waiting for Nick to come out with another filing to slam him down, and it was entertaining. So thanks for reading.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, if I could read Reese Davis's letter, I would, but that shit's so small. He writes like a girl.
Well,
I'm telling you, he didn't write those. He had another inmate for a honey bun write it for him.
He probably had Max Lewis write it for him.
Max Lewis. and I'm not directing this at any individual scarecrow, but if you're in contact with Reese Davis trying to get a story from him, you best just leave it alone. Pack your bags and get off YouTube because you're making yourself look like a dumbass.
No, let him do it. That'll be entertaining. Let him do it.
They all want to be with him. They all think he's hot.
Oh my God.
Who is that asshole that wrote saying that Alan was being mistreated in prison?
Was their name Angela?
No. No. It's the guy that was in prison for being a chomo. And
yeah.
Too many. I can't.
The one up in Westville.
Yeah, Robert something.
Oh, Bastone?
Baston, yes, there you go.
Yeah, fuck him too. This Ricky Davis is just a new Bastone. That's all it is.
They're all Robert Bastone.
Yeah, fuck them all. Feed them beans.
Yeah,
I'd probably enjoy it, Ruckus. I don't know. I'm going to refrain.
See, Newcastle Correctional must be a low-level prison because why would they send Reese Davis up there for drugs? I don't get that.
Well, he could be a CI. That happens a lot.
Right.
He obviously can't close his mouth, so I wouldn't doubt that he is a CI.
Yeah, well, he's trying to do. He's in there for drug charges, and drug people roll on each other quick. So, they'll put him in protective custody, so he's not on the compound, so nobody has access to him.
Yeah, he's already asked to be moved out of Keegan's pod. Said he was afraid of Keegan.
What a fucking idiot!
The Pillsbury Doughboy, you're afraid of him.
I mean, yeah, but he's a small guy. Like, I'd be afraid of Keegan sitting on me too. He probably smells like hell.
Oh yeah, man, I can't imagine.
But unless you're a big, huge honey bun or a devil dog, what the fuck are you afraid of Keegan Klein for?
Yeah, but Keegan Klein is probably looking at every person in there like they're a honey bun. He's got nothing else to look at.
Yeah, but what's Keegan going to do? Talk you to death? I mean...
that's a possibility.
Well, we know it is because we remember when he was at Miami County Correctional waiting for sentencing and trial with his charges, how many people he got send him money for false information and lying?
A
How
lot
many
of
people?
Yeah, a lot of people.
You know, and he's continuing to do it while he's up there in Newcastle. I can guarantee it.
Yeah, because people still believe the horse shit that comes out of his mouth.
Oh, yeah, but people like me, you, and Ruckus, and a lot of people in my chat are a lot smarter than they think we are.
Well, it's not about being smart. It's about how much bullshit you really want to put up with. And it all comes down to how good of a story you want things to be. That's people's problem. They want this to be a story, and it's not.
Right.
There's
You know,
nothing there. Yeah.
There's not.
Right.
You
But
know,
I mean, that's what you can do right now. If this is your only venue, if this is the only thing you can talk about, you have to develop something out of nothing.
you got
So
to
you have
create.
something to talk about. Right.
Right.
Well, at this point, it's a choose your own adventure novel because they've come up with 12 different endings, and all of them are continuously proved to be bullshit. So I don't know what they're coming out with next, but I'm sure you're going to find somebody that has never been mentioned before. All of a sudden, they're going to be the person that did this.
Oh, I saw somebody send a message out in one of the social media spots, said that one of the defense Delulus are saying that Nick admitted to Brady violations. No, he did not, because it's not evidence. It's not exculpatory, guys. It's not. Now, if it was exculpatory, I could see a Brady violation, but it's not.
But the thing that gets me is all the people that are claiming that it is are the people that all day they don't work, they don't do anything, they sit home and they talk true crime, and they don't know what discovery is, they don't know what exculpatory evidence is. I don't deal with this shit in my normal life, and I'm still like, yeah, this is bullshit. You have a 5.5 year investigation, you're not going to give them every single lead that you went over in a trial, and nor does that mean that there's anything to it. But I don't understand how you can do this all day long, every day, and still talk nonsense.
And it's one of them things that we've talked about before. Everybody's like, there was so much evidence that wasn't presented by the prosecution on both sides of the aisle. You got to remember, the prosecution team picks what's the best thing for them to use in a trial that would more likely get a conviction for them.
Yeah. Listen, if I could interview Nick, the only question that I would ask him is, tell us the shit that you guys have that you never even brought up in trial because you either had to go down a rabbit hole to explain it. Like, I'm sure they have other things.
Right.
Like, I mean, take the Google preservation data, for instance. That doesn't mean anything on its own, but that's just one little thing that they got from him that's like, yeah, this guy's a fucking weirdo.
Right.
I'm sure they've got a whole treasure trove of stuff, but they didn't need to bring it out. Nor do we have the right to see it. Like,
right.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's my point. You know, he picks the best evidence he has that he knows he can get a conviction with.
Yeah. And I mean, even us that went, we all looked like asshats because every day we would walk in and I would say, hey, I wonder when they're going to bring this up, or I wonder when they're going to bring that up. All the stuff that we had talked about for years before this went to trial, they never brought any of that shit up. Nope. I felt like a dumbass, but that's how that goes. Like, people came up with a lot of really good theories that sounded like it would be a huge bombshell. It would be really cool to hear about in court, but it didn't exist.
All right. Somebody's arguing in here about Ozcrack. Chrissy Connolly says Osbrook did not say that. What was said? Let me see. All right. It must be Miranda Lee. Does Ruckus have anything to say about Ozcrack supposedly stating there is a connection between Delphi and Evansdale?
There's no connection between Delphi and Evansdale. I don't know who said it or if they said it, but it's just fodder. You know, they just like to hear themselves talk. There's absolutely no connection between Delphi and Evansdale.
What they're trying to do is, you know, when allegedly Richard Allen was working in Illinois at a Walmart, he's in close proximity to drive to Evansdale. That's what they're trying to do here.
I don't care what they're trying to do. There's no connection. Period.
And to the other point, Richard Allen, by looking at the scene, by looking at the things that he did, Richard Allen's a big pussy. he for whatever reason, he had his mental break and he did what he did. And then he realized he fucked up as soon as he did it. That's evident by looking at that crime scene and by looking at all the shit that he did afterwards.
Oh
He
yeah.
doesn't have the balls to do this again. So even if, Evansdale's way before Delphi, it doesn't line up. The two cases, there's no way that he would have done this again, being the type of person he is. So
All right. Deb saying Osbrook did in fact say that 2 of the phones that were showing up in the fog report in Delphi murders were also showing up in a fog report in Evansdale.
I'm not even aware of a fog report for Evansdale.
and neither is he. He
Right.
acts like he's privy to both investigations.
Yeah,
He's
and
another
I've
one.
spoken to the investigators. I've talked to the detectives, and as far as I know, there's no fog reveal in
Chrissy,
Evansdale.
Well, what you should do is you should tell him that there's this asshole online that's claiming that he knows their investigation. They should probably take action against it. Keep his mouth shut.
Yeah, I'm honestly, Teddy, I'm trying to work that case solidly.
I bet.
Not to bring any of this side bullshit.
Yeah.
I got burned already on this case by not using my own work, and that's
Right.
not going to happen again.
Yeah, we know what you're talking about because we all dealt with that individual. Then Chrissy said he said there were 2 people in Delphi who were in Evansdale at the time of both murders. And it specifically said it's just one of the many coincidences of this case.
Well,
Oh,
there you
yeah,
go.
plenty of coincidences. Keegan Klein is a major coincidence. The things that were going on with Ron Logan at the time of the murder was just a coincidence.
Well, I haven't heard him say it. I don't know much about that dude, but it's just bullshit. And if he's got a problem with that, he can reach out to me. That's a bunch of bullshit.
Chrissy said, or CJK says, it's a complete coincidence. Any similarities that have checked, and there's no evidence to connect from what we've heard or seen. Luis Cuevas is saying that technology is not even completely accurate. That's 100% true. 100% true.
Don't you think that the investigators in Evansdale would be in Delphi 24/7 if that was really the case?
Right, exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really not even worth. I mean, Jinx, Kristen, and Rescue all went with me to the location site in Evansdale, the abduction site and the location site. You have to have good knowledge of that area, personal knowledge of where the bodies were found. And there's just no way. There's no way that somebody from Delphi knew that area that well.
There's 3 coincidences between Evansdale and Delphi. You got 2 girls. You've got a wooded area. And the third one is the van. Those are the 3 that I have come up with are the coincidences between the 2 cases.
Yeah, but the van that's not a reliable witness.
Right.
But you'd have to go there to understand, to really know. And those 3 girls went there and they got to see it firsthand. Now, there's coincidences all over the place, but since the early 70s, there had only been like 11 or 12 cases where it's double abductions. And one person was involved with 3 of them. And he's killed himself now. But he's the only one that I would even consider involved with that case that is not a current suspect.
Ruckus, let me ask you a question because I'm not sure where I heard it. I think it might have been the HBO special. They think it's somebody that knew the girls is involved. Like that's still the leading theory.
Yeah, definitely. There's no doubt about it.
Doesn't that narrow the playing field quite a bit?
Oh yeah. Yes, it does.
That's scary.
Yeah, well, they're missing something, and that's what I'm working on now. I'm trying to put groups of people together to get that information sorted out. But I know it sounds childish and all that, but the Evansdale detectives, they want to solve the case. They don't want anybody from the outside
Just
interfering.
like Delphi.
Yeah, so
Frank, feed
they
that
know
dog,
pretty
damn
much.
He hears somebody outside.
it.
But yeah, I mean, I keep going back to these Delulus and why do they, I understand why they're skipping over information, but it's blatantly obvious they know that Richard Allen was Bridge Guy. It's blatantly obvious. And like I said, and I'll keep iterating it again, the 136-page Frank's memorandum clearly tells you that they know that he is Bridge Guy. They didn't mention it or try to deny that he was Bridge Guy. That should tell you there's people out there something right there. That should tell you that they knew he was Bridge Guy. That's why they did not try to deny he was.
Yeah, they didn't deny he was Bridge Guy, nor did they deny that that was his vehicle on
They
the
never even
Who's Your
talked.
Harvest Store video.
They never even talked about the day in question in reality.
Right.
All they talked about was how he was treated in prison. There was never anything that they said that pointed to him at all that day.
Yeah, they were deflecting.
They brought up a couple people who were either there after the crime took place or in the morning of that day, and all of it fell flat. The people got off the stand, and even I, that knew what was going on, all the background stuff, I go, why did you even call that person? It did absolutely nothing for your case whatsoever. It was a waste of a day.
Right.
So
A waste of paper.
that should tell you something. But if you're one of these people that has to double down because you've been reporting the same bullshit for over a year, you're not going to give up on it. It's the Baldwin virus. You're just going to keep throwing shit at the wall and hope Ricky doesn't catch it and eat it before it sticks. And as we see today included, he's been eating all that shit. So,
and then there's been word out there since he got sentenced and went to Westville, he was up there singing like in the Canary again that he is the one who did it, threatening guards.
How come Baldwin's not talking about that in his filings?
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just like the manipulation game is about over for the defense. Well, I should say it should be over, but we don't know what to expect from here.
Well, we'll see how classy the appellate attorneys are and what bullshit theory they try to plug, because other than that, they don't really have anything that they can say.
Yeah, there is no technicalities from our experience with this case.
They're not going to get granted a new trial. It's not going to happen.
No, especially here in Indiana.
And you look at the Idaho 4 case, when they started talking about the DNA shit, everybody jumped on that bandwagon. See, he's innocent. It's corruption. Poor law enforcement work. Well, then, boom, denied. That's all denied. Now they got to shut the fuck up again.
The Idaho case is even worse. Yeah, I like that. I don't understand. The only thing that I'm interested in with that whole thing is why, which he's another fucking weirdo too. We'll probably never know why.
Well, my theory on him is that we all know he went to college for criminology. That whole works. So I wonder if he was trying to test himself and see if he can get away with it with his knowledge and his schooling.
I think that's the case, but I also think that he probably saw, I mean, they were all attractive girls. He probably saw one of them and they looked at him and his big bushy eyebrows and his weird eyes and said, "Get the fuck away from me, creeper." And he got mad. I mean, that could be another thing, but who knows? Right. I don't understand with a case like that. The only thing that would surprise me is if they came out with some hardcore evidence that somebody else could have been there, but I don't think they have it. At least with Delphi, I wasn't convinced right up until I sat in court because I figured something else was coming down the pipeline that they just haven't talked about yet. That's not the case with Idaho. Give me a break.
Yeah. So all the defense had to do was to defend their client against the accusations, period. They're the ones that started spreading all this shit and adding to it. It's like I said, that memorandum for the Frank's motion, anytime they went an inch off of that guideline, you could tell they're full of shit because they named names. They were descriptive on how the crime happened, who did what arm went into what shirt first of the victims when they got dressed and all that. So anytime they stray off of that, that tells you right away they're full of shit. They're full of
Well,
shit.
I've said it before and I'll say it again because it was the first glaringly obvious fact that made me mad was that stupid fucking yellow rope. And they put that in there to try to sway public opinion and say,
Oh
"Oh, this is weird."
yes.
And they
Here's it
literally
at
every crime scene photo they showed had that yellow rope in there, and it was explained right away what that was, and it was from the CSI
Sergeant.
text.
Sergeant Page.
Yeah, like I don't understand why you would put something like that in there, knowing that you're going to get to trial at some point, and you're going to have these people that you were trying to convince on the internet that this is real and this might be what happened because there's this odd piece of evidence at the crime scene. It's like that wasn't evidence at the crime scene, numbnuts. Like
No,
you
Yeah,
guys
and
knew that.
they
that was
tried
part
to
of the grid
deflect it off.
pattern.
Yeah, they tried to deflect it off the grid patterns because of Brad Holder's alleged painting that he made of the girl hung upside down with a rope from a tree. That's just ridiculous. You know that you've read Sergeant Page's information and you try to debunk it with that garbage with a painting? Come on now.
I don't know. It was very clear and obvious when these people got up to speak
Yeah.
that they knew what they were talking about, and that's not something that proves anything in particular, but because people can lie. That's very true. People can lie, but all these people got up and presented their information, and that made sense right off the jump.
It did.
Everything that the defense has tried to piece together that hasn't been like a legitimate, hey, did you guys check behind the Hoosier Harvest store for anything? Like, you guys don't know what direction, if he walked all the way down 300 North right to the CPS building, he could have gone behind the Hoosier Harvest store.
Right.
And you might find out like that's a good question. That's something that you should ask.
Right.
But they didn't do that. They did that like every once in a while. Most of the stuff that they brought up and talked about,
it was irrelevant.
well, it was irrelevant, but if you had the people that have been looking at this case for 8 years in that courtroom and on that jury, they might eat it up. But the people that came into this, that sat on that jury, that had no idea about the case, they looked at these people like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Right.
So
you can see it in their expressions, especially when Baldwin was up there trying to cross or examine the witnesses, and he would get an attitude about it because he knew the defense was looking at, or the jury was looking at him like, this dude's fucking crazy.
Well, he was just butthurt that they didn't take kindly to his theatrics.
I thought it was funny, honestly,
I
especially
did too.
when Sarah Carball was on the stand and she was so dramatic, and he would just look at the judge like, are you going to do anything? And Judge Gold just sat there like, you brought this upon yourself, dude.
That's true. I mean,
you know,
that's the type of stuff that I guarantee you all of law enforcement that was up there. I mean, Mullins tried to give it back to him quite a bit, or Rosie, whatever one that was up there doing the cross on him.
Baldwin, it was Rosie and Mullen.
Yeah. So
and then Baldwin did some cross on Mullen too.
Yeah, he was trying to be smart about it. I thought it was funny because he was trying to be technical while he was giving him shit back, you know. Right. No, I don't know what you're referring to. And he said it really smartly. And I'm like, you can't blame these people for being this way because they know it's all horseshit. And they have to sit here and listen to these people try to goad them into saying something that is going to trip them up. And they're like, no, it's just stupid.
These guys have got so much experience in testifying. They know. They know.
Well, that's another reason that's funny with the defense, because they have so many years of experience between the three of them, and they're trash. I don't know.
Now, Teddy, you saw the interrogation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what'd you think of Richard Allen's body language during that? I've never
So
seen it. I've never even heard it.
I can't wait for those 2 videos to come out because they're very telling. Like everybody wants the October 26th interview with Holman to come out, and like that's great. But that first interview is one of the most important pieces of evidence against him because it's the only time that you see him where he really doesn't think they're onto him. And the beginning of that interview, they're really jovial. They're joking around. When they tell him, they read him his Miranda and they tell him, you're free to go at any time. And he jokes like he's getting up from the table, like, yeah, fuck this shit, I'm out. And he sits back down and laughs about it. So you see how he goes from that and just giving them his background of where he's worked and why he decided to go to CBS. And you see them doing their work. They're slowly starting to
Butter him
move in
up.
on him. Yeah.
Butter him up.
And so they pull out the photo of Bridge Guy.
Oh yeah.
They ask him. They show photos of his car, and the camera is up in the corner of the room, obviously, but the room is really big. So you can't see him as clearly as you can in the Holman interview where it's a smaller room. But you can see him move around in his chair a little bit, and you can tell by what he's saying. Like once they start asking him about looking through his phone, he's kind of like, yeah, well, I got to ask my wife. Like I got like what
He was trying to
wife.
think. He was trying to come up with something in his head while he was speaking.
Yeah, he had to come up with some excuse for them not to check his phone, and he was still all right. Like he wasn't giving off any extremely angry vibes or anything like that. It wasn't until Mullen and Liggett left the room and Allen's on his phone. He's kind of like swiveling in the chair. He's on his phone going through stuff. And then they come back in and they're like, Rick, we got to be honest with you. We've already talked to your wife and daughter. And he fucking blew up.
Yep.
He's like, oh, so you guys lied to me the whole time that I'm here, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, well, no. I mean, we never said we did or didn't talk to your wife and daughter, but we talked to them and they told us some things. And that's when he started getting really irritable. And
especially when Kathy came into the room.
Well, Kathy didn't come into the room in that October 13th interview. That was the 26th. Yeah. I'm talking about the first.
When they showed him the picture of Bridge Guy, and they asked him if that was him, and he said, well, if the girls took that photo, it's not me.
Yeah, it couldn't be me if they took it on their camera, which that statement, whatever, that wasn't anything to me that made me think any differently. I already knew it was him just by the voice and by the way that he was acting. But what did it for me was his change of mood from the beginning to, 30 minutes into it.
Like Miranda says here, they did all that to trigger him.
Yeah, and they did a good job. I mean,
yes, and they did.
They were very calm the whole time. They're like, we're just trying to get this information because there's some things from your statement that we need to verify. And us looking through your phone is going to help us to see what's what. And he just kept beating around the bush. And it got to the end. By the end of it, they basically said, like, after you just sat here and told us that you were wearing this, and this, you saw these 3 girls on the trail when you walked in, and everything else that you said, this isn't really looking good. And he got up and he goes, bunch of assholes, and walked out the door. And that was that. So it didn't look good for Lil Ricky by the end of that first interview.
Now the one with Holman, woof.
Yeah, and let me preface it with this. He did not break the entire time. That one with Holman, he stuck to his guns and kept saying that I don't know how it got there, but that can't be my round. That can't be my round. That can't be my round. He never once broke. But Holman was, contrary to popular opinion, Holman was very calm all the way through that interview up until the last 5 minutes. And he was, trying to tell him, hey, you need to help yourself here. I can't do anything if you don't talk to me. We got your gun. We have this round. And he had the photo of the round at the crime scene. He had photos of the girls right there on the table. He goes, science doesn't lie. We got a match with your gun. This is your round. And he kept going through and giving him every excuse. And then Holman left, and he goes, well, your wife's in the other room right now, and she's telling us things that don't line up with what you're telling us. And Holman left, and Kathy comes in. Holman still wasn't back in the room. Kathy came in. And in court, everybody was silent because most of us couldn't really hear the TV that well. And as soon as Kathy comes in, and she was hysterical,
Yeah.
Richard Allen is sitting at the defense table, and he starts tapping his foot against that, like the plastic mat that's underneath the tables. He started freaking out as soon as she came into the room. It's the only time throughout that whole trial that I saw him get emotional in any way.
Yeah, like a machine gun, his foot was going. Yeah.
Yeah. So she came in, and she's, they give each other a kiss, and he's trying to tell her, like, honey, like, I don't know what's going on. They keep trying to put this on me. And she's trying to ask him questions through her breathing and all her emotions. And she's like, why are they saying that you were on the bridge? You never told me that you were on the bridge. He goes, yes, I did. I said I was on the first trestle. She goes,
I'll be
no,
right
you
back.
didn't.
Yeah.
All right, Rock.
And then she asked him about the bullet.
Yeah. He goes, they're playing with me. Like, you can't believe that this was me. You can't tell me, like, me. This can't be me. And she's just looking at him like, I don't know what the hell to believe, because they just dropped all this knowledge on me.
And she was standoffish with him too at one point during that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because think about it. She's extremely emotional. She hasn't thought in 5 years that her husband was the killer. And now it was kind of interesting that through all the filings and stuff, they talked about how his car got taken on the 13th, and him and Kathy were having a hard time getting back and forth to work. So they kept calling to see when they could get their car back.
Yeah.
In court, however, I think it was Mullen. He said, like, or maybe it was Holman. He goes, we actually set up a time for them to come and collect the stuff that we took, and they canceled the appointment, the first one.
Yep.
So I didn't know that at all. And then once they did get them to the station, and he came out about Richard Allen taking all the stuff out of his pockets, like, he was going to jail. I don't know. It's none of that adds up to somebody that's innocent at all.
Exactly.
Without any of the other information, especially this is not a couple of days after the crime happened. This is 5 years later. So somebody that has nothing to do with it would be sitting there like, okay, I don't understand what's going on. Why are you guys talking to me?
Right.
And he didn't.
I mean, for somebody that was claiming his innocence through all these interview or interrogations or whatever you want to call them, claiming his innocence, but then he gets up to Westville, 61 plus confessions between corrections officers, inmates, doctors, and things like that. Now, what does that tell you? Don't tell me the dude was losing his fucking mind, because I think that was all a plan by the defense to make him look crazy.
If I hadn't have been there and listened to what was being said, like, we heard it from the people that were his suicide companions, the guards.
Mm-hmm.
We heard some of the stuff that they were saying. We heard the stuff that he said to his wife and mother on those calls.
Yeah.
And not once. This was one of the things that I wish would have been different. He never went into detail about the crimes in those phone calls at all.
Right.
And it wasn't, for me, it wasn't about him saying, yeah, I did this, or I think I did this, or whatever. It was some of the replies that he would give once his wife and his mom weren't having any of that.
Right.
And I mean, he was very adamant. He wasn't angry.
Especially the one to his mom. The one to his mom where he said, why would I say that I did it if I didn't?
Right. She goes, why would you say that? He goes, very calmly, why
Yeah.
would I say I did it if I didn't do it?
Right.
So you have to look at it from the perspective of somebody that's possibly being coerced to make a confession. If that was you and you were innocent, you would come out and say, hey, I'm the person that committed this crime. And you would leave it at that. You wouldn't be going above and beyond to make them understand, to the point where he called his mother the one day and she goes, hey, Ricky, how are you? And his first words were, did Kathy tell you I did it?
Right.
And that's one phone call out of the 10 or 12 that we heard.
And there was over 700 phone calls,
Right.
according to what's his name?
Harshman.
Harshman. There you go.
Yeah. I mean, out of those 700, I'm sure he didn't confess in all of them. But
Right.
the
Now
ones
that
that
second
he did.
interview on the 26th, Teddy,
Yep.
or Frank, you were there as well. Did they keep moving closer and closer to him towards the end of the interview? You know,
No.
No,
getting
not
into
at
his
all.
space.
No.
Okay, so they didn't pressure him. They didn't use the whole read technique.
Well, they did throughout the interview. I mean, in the beginning, like I said, Holman was very calm and just trying to say, like, listen, you got to let me help you. I can't do anything for you if you don't say anything.
Now,
And
now let me get in here real quick. Now, remember when Richard Allen told Holman, says, you're going to fucking pay for this. And he said, no, I'm going to prove you fucking did it.
yeah, he goes, no, you're going to pay for this and you're going to pay for those waters too, because they're not fucking free. That shit was hilarious. But no, at the very end, Kathy was still in the room. It was her and Rick sitting down in the two chairs that were there.
Mm-hmm.
And Holman came back in, and that's when he lost his temper, because he had already tried to play Mr. Nice Guy and try to get the information out of him.
So Holman was being the good cop, bad cop in the same sense by himself.
Yeah, and I think Holman thought that people were going to think differently of him once they saw this interview. And I said, I don't understand why.
And that's a typical cop.
Right. You did exactly what I would have expected of you. You guys had already gotten the analysis of the round back. You know, you had just gone to his house and did the search, and he's sitting in the car telling you it doesn't matter. It's over. And then you have all this other stuff that you guys have been plugging into place once you had his tip.
Right.
So I don't know what else you were supposed to do. I would be pissed off too. You guys spent 5.5 years running in circles, and this asshole has been there the whole time. I'd be pissed too, especially because you know that he couldn't give you any explanation of, well, where were you? If you weren't there at the time, you saw all these people who all line up in this timeline, but you didn't see the girls, and you can't tell us, you know, which way you went back home or which way you got there, but you can tell us all these other things exactly.
Right. Deb's True Crime Notebook makes a good analogy here, as if his attorneys were basically controlling him.
Yeah, but he didn't even have attorneys then.
Right. Monroe says, got a question for Ruckus. How were there that many hours of recordings if the man was in sensory deprivation and confinement?
Because shit's changed.
And we do need to get something. We do need to get something real quick. He was not in solitary confinement. We need to clear the air of that. Solitary confinement, you're not going to get a tablet. You're not going to get a TV. You're probably most likely not going to be able to get commissary.
You're not going to have control over the lighting in your room, which he had control of.
Exactly.
So
all these the way the lighting works, okay, there's a button in your room. It's a pressure sensitive button. It was way back in the early 90s anyway, where you can turn the light down. We used to go in, inmates would put pictures and rags on their light so it would make their room darker. That's a no-no. The officers have to be able to see you every 15 minutes or whatever is dictated. Now, as far as him being in confinement, that's a gray area as well, Frank, because there could be two cells right next to each other. They're the same cell. They have the same things in it. One's in there for disciplinary reasons. The other one's in there for protection. The guys that are in there for protection, they'll get a tablet now, which is bullshit to me. I don't agree with that at all. And they have control over their lights to a point. In the control room, when the officers running the control room puts it on nighttime, the lights are dimmed and the inmates have no control over them anymore. In the morning, they turn everybody's lights on, and now they have control. Because some inmates stay up all night and sleep all day, so they don't have to deal with the bullshit during the day with all
Right.
the jitterbug inmates running around causing problems. But the structure itself, the confinement wing, they can be there for medical, they can be there for protective custody, they can be there for close management because they're a problem. It's not the structure itself. It's what classification deems them as. Now, as far as him being in confinement and deprivation and all that, that's a bunch of bullshit. That was all an act.
Right. That's
I,
my
I, I
point.
know inmates that loved confinement. They wanted to stay there because they didn't want to deal with people on the compound.
Well,
Exactly.
Gallipo testified to all of that too, which that son of a bitch almost got me kicked out of court because he was hilarious. I mean, how he was
present.
responding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was very, I was extremely sleep deprived. I think that day more than any. It was like 2 days with no sleep. And Susan Hendricks kept like making me go back upstairs. I was like, I'm gonna leave, and she goes, "No, I think the confessions are gonna come out." And I'm like, son of a bitch, okay. So it's towards the end of the day, and Gallipo's up on the stand. I have no idea what this guy looks like, how he is. I just heard that he's a good witness. And Rosie's having a field day going through Westville and looking at all the stuff that's wrong with the place and how bad it is. And I wrote in my notes, I'm like, yeah, I bet there's a ton of goose shit in Westville too. And then that makes it so difficult for these inmates to, lead a normal life on the inside because they got to walk past all this goose shit. Like that's the type of stuff that the defense was bringing up, just trying to make it look so bad. And then the direct questions to Gallipo that were funny was, well, isn't it true that he was in a solitary cell with no one around? And Gallipo's like, no, he was treated better than any single inmate in that prison. And he kept,
go ahead.
No, go ahead, Frank.
You bring up Gallipo. I mean, Dr. Wallet did the same thing to Rosie. Did the same damn thing.
The shit with the window.
Well, not only
the
that,
window and the iPad.
Not only that, she kept telling him, she said, look, if it's documented, it happened.
Yeah.
She was getting back at Rosie, and I was like, oh shit, she's turning against Rosie.
Because they're attacking their profession and their job. Like, these people hit everything under the rug just for this one guy that no one gives a shit about.
Right.
They don't care. Richard Allen is not Brad Pitt. It's not like everybody's, looking to get with him or something, or, this is a big thing. They were all telling you what happened. Gallipo said, yeah, he did whatever and broke his iPad because he's a little bitch. And we fast-tracked him getting a new iPad. There are people that have been in that prison for years that are still waiting to get a new iPad. And this asshole got one before everybody else. So that's one thing that he got treated better than everybody in there.
That's because he's a pre-trial detainee.
Right.
That's why. He's not there to be punished. He's there to be held
that's what
until he goes to court.
Right. But everybody wants to make it out like he was treated the worst out of any pre-trial detainee. They're like, look, he got sent to us. We put him in a room that was designed for people in his position that we need to keep safe. He had suicide companions sitting there that he could converse with, and he did. He had, his window, he scratched the hell out of his window because he was trying to act like he was a psychotic bitch. And what happened?
But here's the thing, dude. That window was already scratched. I will bet my life
I bet too
that he didn't have anything sharp enough to scratch that glass in his cell.
No, knowing him, he probably licked the fucking thing a bunch of times.
Yeah, he may have. I've seen him rub shit on it, spit on it, anything,
still,
put toilet paper on it.
do you think
Yeah.
any one of those convicted inmates, they would have said anything about it? They would have told him to get fucked.
Yeah,
And with
exactly.
him, they went, okay, honey, let's fix your window so that way you might
Exactly.
not, eat your shit and jerk off while people are coming through trying to take you to a psychiatric appointment. Like, and all the times they talked about him going crazy, he fucking told the people that were outside his cell, like, oh, I'm just acting crazy right now.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
And it was blatantly obvious, that photo that they came out with when he's in that red jumpsuit and all that shit down in front of him. I said that was a ploy to make him look like he was crazy.
Yeah, and he was
Dude,
under 24 hours a day. There's a camera and audio in that
Yeah.
cell. So that's because he is a special inmate. He's a pretrial detainee. And when he first went into the room with his attorneys to speak with his attorneys, they videoed through the window, which was stupid, but they took it a little too far because the rule was 24/7 he needs to be videotaped because he's going to trial and we need to make sure that everything is available for the trial, the way he's acting and everything like that. So I think they just went a little bit overboard about that. But
Well,
again, his attorneys didn't even go. That was fucking Max, the
yeah.
21-year-old kid.
that
So
could fill out his own suit.
Well,
yeah, so
then
they
you
were
got to.
talking about all these conditions, and all it was hearsay from Max.
Well,
And even
what else you got to remember is Gallipo even admitted that he got change of clothes 3 times a week. He got showers 3 times a week. And when he was in that red jumpsuit, he advised him that day when he was supposed to see his attorneys, you need to go take a shower. Did Richard Allen take it up and take a shower? No. Didn't change his clothes or nothing. So
He's
what
smart.
does that tell
That
you?
was smart. That was the smart thing to do. I don't blame him for that. I don't.
Well,
I
I get that, but that should tell everybody that was a ploy by the defense to make it look like something that wasn't really
Now,
there.
Frank, unfortunately, there's a lot of bleeding heart people that will take that at face value and saying he's being tortured. Why
Well,
there's
of
not
course.
people out in front of Westville right now complaining about the conditions like they did when Richard Allen was in there tells you that they're full of shit as well. So
Linda Harder says, was R.A. in a tiny cage or a regular cell when he was at Westville? He was more than likely, in an 8x12 cell, Ruckus?
8x6. And
And
no matter where he went, he's in an 8x6 right now.
it might have been a little bit smaller once they brought his TV in. So I mean, there's a little less room after that, but
I don't think he had a TV in his
he did.
cell.
He did. They said that he did.
Oh, see, so that's bullshit.
Yeah, after he started going crazy, Gallipo said, we brought him in a TV to try to, give him, like, maybe he likes watching TV. So all these
Dude,
things
you know
that
what
they
a chance
did.
that is? He could choke himself out with the cord.
It's
He could
too bad he
break the
didn't.
glass and cut
wish he would have.
himself. I agree. I'm telling you from a legal standpoint.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's what I'm saying though, is like
they may have
even
put
did
it in
shit
front
like
of his
that.
cell out in the hallway.
Well, yeah, I see that on a stool or something. I
can't see them putting it in his cell.
I don't know because they put Abby and Libby on display for the world and showed them no respect, but when it come to Richard Allen in his cell, only the jury could see that. So
Miranda Lee,
yeah, that was bullshit.
Yep,
pinpointed right there. They catered to him up there at Westville,
and they had to, even though they didn't want to.
Right,
you have to make sure there's no bullshit during the trial, and still, that was 90% of the defense was he's being mistreated. They collected $45,000 from good hardworking people under the ruse that he's being mistreated and he needed specialists. Now, I don't know where that money went, but I want my fucking $3 back. But
how about the Hennessy? Hennessy's on a beach right now somewhere with it. He's waiting there with a cigar for you.
Yeah.
I mean, Gallipo even said that he was offered to go out to a wreck an hour a day, and he would refuse.
And you know what Rosie said? This shit really got me. He goes, yeah, well, he was let out there into wreck, and there was a cage on the ceiling. I'm like, yeah, no shit. He's still a fucking prisoner. Like,
yeah, there's absolutely a cage on the ceiling.
Yeah, what do you mean?
Yeah, there's a stainless steel water fountain, a shitter, All block walls and a cage on the top in those units.
I know. I don't even know why they gave him a shitter, because he fucking put more of it in his mouth than he did down the drain.
That's
Yeah, how
just
how
fucking-
gross is that? How fucking
that
gross
that just shows you the extent that they went to try to make him look crazy.
I've seen it. I've seen people eating their foot. I've
Wow.
watched it. Yeah, they're just fucking nuts, man. But
Mhm.
it's not because they're in confinement. It's guilt.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
he had a lot. He had a lot of it.
and they'll
I
do
believe that.
anything. They'll do anything for sympathy.
Exactly. But
Well-
hey, guys, we've been at it about an hour and 20 minutes, and I'm about to go over my time. But I do want to thank Teddy, Ruckus, for coming up and giving their viewpoints and their opinions. It's always great to have. It's always great to have you two on here, because you guys have got knowledge that people need to hear.
I'm a dumbass. I don't know anything. But
Well,
thanks for
I'm
having me
right
on.
there with you.
No problem. I want to thank all my mods. Thank you, ladies and gents. I do want to thank Mustang, Diddums, Boston Christian, Cecil Hotel, Monroe, twice for the super stickers and super chats. It's greatly appreciated. And on your way out, guys, please go hit that thumbs up. It helps my algorithms. But you know what time it is, guys.
Have a good night, ladies and gentlemen.
Don't
Good
take any
night.
wooden nickels.
Peace out. One love, guys. Good night.
See you
See ya.
later.
Good night, guys.